Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Great to be with you on the show today. A bit late because practice started, but I know people keep track of this. I was talking with a good friend, Janice Little, and she says, "Oh yeah," I think it was late last week or something like that because of whatever. And she says it was a good reason. There we go. All right. As the strategic assistant to Duke basketball, what were you thinking? No, I'm just kidding. The odd thing about it is you're taught, like, to get the ball in the Cam Boozer.
Yeah.
He's probably the guy I want to have the ball to begin with, right? But, he got it back to Sarr, and he gets it ahead to Caden Boozer. You want the ball in the middle of the floor. You don't want it on the sideline, especially when you're near the timeline, because the sideline becomes a defender.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right? And you're like, okay, so you want it in the center. So, in other words, how they're running it was correct.
It was correct, yeah.
The panic with which it ensued, because even Cam Boozer's like, I got to get rid of this thing.
Yeah.
Right? And Sarr's like, I got to get rid of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Boozer's like, Caden Boozer, I got to get rid of this thing. But in terms of how it was set up,
it was perfect. That being said, as a coach, you've got to see that panic. You've got to see that you have a timeout in your pocket, and you've got to look and see, okay, our guys are in trouble here. Get a timeout, get it set.
Because you had a timeout.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't matter at that point when it comes to your challenge. Mm-hmm. There's less than 10 seconds to go. Okay?
Yeah.
There's no need to challenge it.
Yeah, and it's like in football when you have, I got 3 timeouts in my pocket, but it's 4th and 12. You don't convert 4th and 12 here with a minute to go. It doesn't matter if you have your 3 timeouts or not.
Right.
Yeah, that's where, sometimes people just overthink themselves. And then, look, John Shire is a great coach. I know he's going to get criticism for the last 2 years.
Of course he will.
But this guy knows what he's doing. He's kept Duke at the level he's been able to keep it at. And, sometimes you just outthink yourself.
Well, that's one thing about this show. Nobody's ever once
That's right.
accused us of overthinking
No.
anything along the way. The women's Final Four said it's all the number 1 seeds for the 52nd consecutive year.
Feels like it. It does feel like it.
Golly. I know they don't want to hear that. I know they don't want to hear that, but the perception is the same. It's one. Now last year the men had all ones. All 4 ones made it. This year 2 made it.
Yeah. And there's going to be less parity with NIL, with people sticking around, with people being older. But, yeah, the women, there is just none.
I mean, some of the names over the years have changed.
Yep.
Like South Carolina with Dawn Staley has
Sure.
ascended to the Pantheon.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee's fallen back.
Sure.
But when turns out you're great in that sport, the gap between you and good is a chasm.
Astronomical.
And if you were to ask me 20 years ago, I would have told you, oh, no, there'll be parity. It'll be all over the place. And da-da. Nope.
Yeah.
It's not there.
Mm-mm. No, not at all, especially in women's basketball.
I mean, the losses they have are against each other.
Yeah. And they've got to play each other to keep
the
sport going. Absolutely.
Keep the sport interesting. During the regular season. They have to play each other.
Absolutely.
I mean, and for the good of the sport, you have to.
And that's not us knocking women's basketball. That's us saying, I'm not. This is what has to be done because UConn is blowing out everybody else. They've got to play South Carolina. Yeah, that's what we're saying.
I'm not knocking.
No, I'm not knocking it either
at all. I'm saying it hasn't turned out the way I thought it was going to.
No, not at all.
20 years ago, I thought there'd be this spreading of talent all over the place. And it's still concentrated in certain spots in the country, and that's it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, there are two things you can count on in the women's basketball tournament, it seems these days. That the vast majority of the ones will make it, if not all of them.
Not all, yeah.
And number two, somebody will complain about some logistical issue with the tournament.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I've already gone through the story about the COVID one, where like the men's tournament got all sorts of. Remember they all right? And it was, again, narratives. I'd say 7 to 8 out of 10 narratives are just dead wrong.
Completely.
It's like stunning, stunning. Like that's why I tell everybody when I talk to students, I tell them to do your own work, do your own research.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you come to the same conclusion as the narrative, so be it.
So be it. Exactly.
Right?
So you usually
That's
don't.
fine.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I mean, the story about the COVID deal is the NCAA women's tournament, the men's tournament. They're trying to do the whole thing in Indianapolis, and the women are going to do the whole thing in San Antonio, I believe.
Yep.
So they're going to do the whole thing in Indianapolis. Well, they've never done the whole thing in one place before. So how do we do this? How do we do meals? How do we do practice times? How do we do transportation? So what they did was they got a hold of the NBA. Because the NBA had done it in October that year in Orlando. He said, well, tell us, what were you doing about meals? How were you doing? I mean, they wanted to get as much help as possible to make sure they were doing it right. And they were trying to play in like 4 arenas or something like that. Hinkle Fieldhouse, the Farm Center, Gamebridge, and Lucas Oil Stadium. So they were trying to do it like that. And what were the rules in the hotel? What were the rules? So they took as much of that as possible and then adapted it to what they were doing there. And when it came time for gifts, they ordered the gifts and they called the women's committee, them, and said, "Hey, we can make it easier. We could order double, get you guys the exact same gifts." They were told no. They said, no. Women would prefer different gifts. Oh, perfectly acceptable. It's a fine answer. It's
understanding, yeah.
Right, completely. Right. Oh, and they also want to know, how do you set up the weight room and all this other stuff? So they did all this. The women are down in San Antonio. Okay. What did they complain about? Well, virtually everything. Right. Weight room, meals, gifts.
Yeah.
Hey, not one of them called the men's tournament committee and asked them, what were you doing? None of them. There were no phone calls. 0. Okay. And they also made no phone calls to the WNBA because they held their championship in Bradenton. They didn't talk to either one. They did it on their own.
Yep.
And then when it came time, when they got all these companies, look at this compared to the men, they're like, oh, you could have had the same thing, but you didn't ask. We didn't know what you were doing. In other words, the men's committee did not know what the women's committee was doing. They would have told them, hey, we'd set it up like this. This is what we're doing for meals. This is what we, okay. And the gift thing, and the gifts. Look at what the men got. You were offered the same gifts, right? And because I know people on the committee, they were so mad at Mark Emmert because he threw them under the bus because of some narrative. Instead of getting up there and looking at him and go, I'm sorry, you blew it. It's actually your fault, right? It's not their fault. and it's not the NCAA's fault. We put you in charge, and you hit one foul ball after another, and then made another group. And Emmert made sure the other group took the blame because it was the politically correct thing to do. Like, no, it's not.
Yep.
It's not. It's a lie. Strong word, but it is.
No, and it is.
Right? And it stayed in place the entire time. Now every year you get a complaint about, now they complain about having 2 regions, which, by the way, they have 5 more years to go on that. There's 5 more years to go on that. It's a 7-year deal. Right? So you get 2 regions, which, what does 2 regions do? Saves money.
Saves money, yep.
Because guess what is the single biggest losing proposition that the NCAA, among the championships, they have 87 championships. Which one loses more money than almost all the others combined? The women's tournament.
Yep.
Oh, that can't be. I see the crowds. Oh, please. Right? Just because you see people does not mean, okay, it's not how it works.
Nope. No.
Right? If you want to know the financial difference between the men's tournament and the women's tournament, I'd say $935 million a year. Because the women's tournament gets $65 million now from ESPN, which is a great jump. I mean, it's triple what they had before. That's great. But the men's tournament gets $1 billion.
Easily. Yep.
From TV.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean that's what, you want to know what fuels and funds what's going on in the NCAA. It's that tournament.
Sure.
Right? And they're not out there trying to renegotiate it. It's going to be, this is going to be an interesting time at the end of this decade and the beginning of the next decade. Because at the end of this decade, you have the NFL contracts are up. The Big Ten contracts are up at the end of the decade. At the beginning of the next decade, the SEC contract is up. And so is the NCAA men's basketball tournament contract is up. And while CBS and Turner have done a great job with it, because now, instead of being locked into the game in your area, like, oh, geez, I really want to watch the other game. Right now we get to see any game we want.
Now you see any game you want. Yep.
Any game we
Absolutely.
want. And because they were using cable homes, because of Turner, they were able to get the extra money because CBS couldn't front it all by themselves. So that's all coming to fruition at the end of the decade, the beginning of the next decade, where and the NFL is not going to sit back and say no. They will scorch earth this thing.
Absolutely.
Right? They're already mad that the NBA got the contract they did.
Yeah.
And it's not the overall number, which is what, $7.5 billion a year.
No,
the NFL gets over $11 billion a year. It's not the overall number.
Yeah.
It's the NBC and ESPN part that really rankles them, because NBC pays more for Sunday night NBA in the playoffs than they do for Sunday night football. And the two aren't even in the same ratings world.
No, not close.
Right? ESPN pays more for its NBA contract than it does for Monday Night Football and the highlights, because they have to add the highlights.
Yep.
In, right? ESPN Monday Night Football ratings and the NBA ratings are not even in the same category.
Same galaxy. No,
not even close.
Nope.
So they will go scorched earth.
Sure.
The NFL will. My question is going to be, moving forward, Major League Baseball is setting an interesting precedent right now, which is going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because they're using more streaming.
Yes.
Netflix was the opener, for example. They do have a Prime contract. They have Apple TV.
Apple TV, yep. Peacock now. Yep.
Peacock. Yep. And you have people that are baseball fans that are complaining about, how come I can't see a Yankees fan? Let's take a Yankees fan. I can't see all my games on Yes, unless it's a national game. Come on.
Right. Yeah. That's been something that has changed in a big way in these last about 5 years or so.
And I don't think it's a change for the better.
No, it certainly isn't.
It's
absolutely not.
To me, streaming, as I've pointed out 1,000 times, is a supplement.
It's a supplement, absolutely. And the unfortunate part is you're now seeing, and not entirely, but I think to an extent you're seeing the big companies that provide you television focusing more on streaming, which is the bigger concern. Because now you're going away from a section of your audience. Because the older generation is not going to get into the streaming part of it.
Now, how much streaming do you do?
I have Peacock. I'm trying to think if I have anything else. I think that may be it. I think I have Peacock, and I have I think I get Paramount because I have another subscription that gives me Paramount. But I think then I have ESPN, the ESPN Unlimited.
I only have Prime Video.
The only one I pay for is Peacock. The other two I get because I have a subscription to something else.
I have enough boxes that show up right in the holidays.
Yeah.
Where I get Prime.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
But I also enjoy watching Thursday Night Football. I do.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
And there have been a couple series on there I've watched. But that's the only one I have. I don't have ESPN Plus. I don't have Peacock. I don't have Netflix. I just don't. I don't have any desire for it. And it doesn't mean there's not quality shows on there, but there's shows I'm not really aware of.
No, and I can tell you there's the clear indication that, and like the statement I just said, the one I pay for is Peacock. The other two I don't even pay for because I get them in a subscription with something else. So, which tells me
you have a reputation for stealing cable. We do know that. Right. So, are you using your brother's password again?
No. The classic. But
the dog using patches.
That's right. What that tells me though is that these streaming services are nowhere close to where they want to be. If they're giving them away with something else, then you're trying to entice another customer coming in. You're not anywhere close to where you want to be as a streaming service. And that is where I think they are hurting in a big way. And you're right. I think having it as a supplement and not the source is one of the biggest things. You lose a lot of things that used to be on cable television that are going to streaming only now. You're starting to lose fans. You're not going to always have.
That's the part.
Absolutely, you're not always going to have them following. People can't afford an extra bill this day and age a lot of times. So there's absolutely not a chance in some spots that you're going to have that person follow, which you hope is going to be the case, but it's not always the case.
And I don't know where they're getting the money.
No, I don't either. Now, do they provide a great service? Of course. And Peacock has stepped up huge. You have basketball, you have baseball now, which is
that's right.
It's been to supplement the football that you've already had. And you also have plenty of an additional amount more college sports. So they're doing a great job with doing everything they can to provide the service to you. It's that the service is not something that a certain generation is going to want to watch. Or are going to want to spend money on. Families have a budget. That budget often doesn't include $29.99 a month for streaming.
Yeah. Well, guess what Apple lost last year? $1 billion.
Yeah, the only one that's even remotely close, I think, is Prime. I don't think any of the other streaming services have come anywhere close to getting in the green.
Disney Plus.
Yeah, which is ESPN too.
Mm. Yeah, that's
ESPN as well. Yeah,
you're talking about ESPN Plus.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All right. 5 years.
ESPN streaming, man. Yeah.
5 years. Disney Plus. So this is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. 5 years. $11 billion in losses.
Yeah.
It's just like this happens.
Absolutely, and it's going
over and over again.
That number can go down, but it's not going to go to the point where it gets into the green. That's the issues that you're having with these streaming services. At some point, you got to wonder where this, and you just said where they're getting the money. That's kind of the point I'm making. Where, at some point, where are you getting the money to completely offset these losses? Because I don't know where it's coming from. And you're paying a lot of money. It's not $5 to air a Major League Baseball or the NBA. Certainly not the NFL.
Okay. Stars lost $800,000 because they lost 800,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
What's interesting about streaming is, first of all, a guy like you uses somebody else's password, right? And then after a month, drops it.
There years ago, there used to be
keep
password
on laughing, you're laughing, boy.
Years ago, there were password trades that went on. I can fully confirm that. I don't think they work these days, though.
Okay, so
password trades with consent, might I add?
Now, what do? They actually streaming does increase competition. There's
Absolutely.
no question about that.
No doubt.
The question is, after heavy investment on content, can they find profitability?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, Apple, $1 billion per year.
Yeah.
Gone.
All
right. Disney, $11 billion over 5 years. Gone.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about they lost $100,000.
Yeah.
Like, how do we do this? Or they lost $10 million. Doesn't sound good.
No.
$11 billion, big.
That's huge.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the gross domestic product of Guatemala.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like...
I think a lot of places, and I'm not completely talking about Peacock and places like that, but I think a lot of these services that stream looked at how successful podcasting became. But podcasting, you weren't investing billions upon billions and losing it. You were kind of starting from the bottom and hoping you were going to hit it, which some people did. But that's the big difference. To where, and they looked at how successful it was. Well, okay, people are streaming nowadays. People are getting away from television. Mm-hmm. People are getting away from everything. Yes and no. No, because the old school person is going to put the TV on to see where something is. Well, they're going to put the radio on, certainly because it's free, number one. That's something that's never talked about and should be talked about very often in this day and age. And they're always going to go back to what they were taught to do years ago. They're not going to change.
No.
They don't want to change. They shouldn't be forced to.
So let's take Paramount. Let's do the impressive part. 71 million subscribers. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
$490 million in losses. Okay.
Hey, you're paying how much for your service? What you have to provide.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, okay.
And I think it goes back to the point you made with the tournament, with the women's tournament. I think so many people look at where they're making the money. They're not looking at where they're spending the money. And that's where, and I'm talking the outsiders. Believe me, Paramount knows how much money they've lost. But the outsiders are looking and saying, oh, they got 71 million subscribers. They're not looking at how much they spent to get to that and the money they're losing.
Yeah. I mean they got the 65 million is great, and I think that they got from ESPN. It's part of the overall deal.
Sure.
I think the whole overall deal is what, 115 million?
115 million, yep.
All right. So, like, when you get a chance to watch the wrestling championship or lacrosse or whatever, that's all in that 115 million. 65 million of which goes to women's basketball.
Sure.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, the men's tournament this year had record ratings for the first 2 rounds.
Couple rounds, yep.
I don't know what the ratings were this past weekend. All we've heard is that the women's ratings were good, but they're not records.
Right.
And
again, they're not going to be.
No offense, but there's no star power in the tournament. I mean, Juju Watkins is out for the year. Caitlin Clark is playing for the Indiana Fever.
Long gone, yep. That's what I still to this day can't understand why Caitlin Clark is as criticized as she is. There's not another Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is sometimes generational talent is sometimes overused. It's not overused there. Women's basketball is a more intriguing product because of Caitlin Clark in a big way.
There's a pettiness.
There is, absolutely.
There is a pettiness that, again, you have to. Okay, I know he's had his difficulties again.
Yes,
it's Tiger Woods.
Sure.
But I did use this analogy the other day. When he first came out there, it's Tiger this and Tiger that. And he's wearing the red shirt, and all the fans are all thinking the other players are like resenting it. Until they started to figure out that they're all making more money
because of him,
and the TV ratings are higher.
Absolutely.
Right? When you finally come to the realization, I can't believe says I'm a great player. They should be watching for me. Well, guess what? I got bad news for you. You've been in the league like 4 or 5 years, and like if they aren't watching now, they're watching now because she's in the league. Okay, don't get mad at her. Okay, be thankful that more people are now watching you and saying, "Hey, you know what? Asia Wilson's pretty good. Yeah, she's actually pretty good. Right? I've been able to discover you because of her." Right?
Absolutely.
Be grateful to her instead of being like, they should be watching for me. Oh, for goodness sakes, you've been in the league for years. I said, you weren't bringing anybody to the TV set.
Nope.
You weren't.
Nope.
Okay? We're not bringing people to the TV set. Really weren't bringing people to the arena.
No, absolutely weren't.
Okay?
Yeah, especially at the pro level. Absolutely not.
I'm talking about the WNBA.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Like, what's wrong with you people?
Yep.
Right? You finally got a marketable star that allows everybody to now watch all of you, because she doesn't play in scrimmages. She plays against other teams. Wow. That's what baffles me about it.
It baffles me completely. Absolutely.
And again, what are the two things you can count on almost every year in that tournament? And again, the level of play is better. So let's do three things. 3 things. The level of play is better. What's one? 2, most of the ones, if not all of them, are going to make the Final Four.
Yep.
That hasn't changed.
Yep.
And there's going to be a complaint about something about the tournament going through.
Yep.
Yeah. What's the big complaint about the men's tournament that you hear every year? You never really complain. I mean, Rick Pitino said, "Hey, maybe we ought to go second next time instead of going first after a loss." Right? That's which is
understandable.
It's understandable because you're in a lot of pain to begin with, right? But that's the big complaint.
Yeah,
and it wasn't even. He even said it politely.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
He's been around long enough to know too.
But I'm saying
that's the other part of it. You're going to have more respect in your statements when you've been around like that.
You're like Gino's a great coach.
Oh,
and
great.
Gino's a great
coach,
guy.
Mentor,
and Gino's
teacher.
a great guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. But very quickly, I want to get into this about Danny Hurley and Tom Izzo. I don't know if I talked about this the other day or not. About coaching people hard. You can coach people hard and love them up too. Right. But Tom Izzo is demanding about how he coaches his players.
Sure, absolutely.
Practice, expects what he expects from them games. Dan Hurley's the same way. He leaves a nut on the sidelines. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
When you are let's take the 1994 Penn State football team. They're blowing everybody out.
Sure.
Except for Michigan, they won late.
Yeah.
The touchdown pass from Kerry to Bobby Ingram. Okay. But Joe always said all season long, I won't really know how great they are until they face adversity. Well, when you're facing adversity in practice, and you're facing adversity in practice, and you're facing adversity in practice, and you're being coached hard, when you finally face real adversity in the game, you're like, okay, let's go. We face this. Here we go.
Absolutely.
Right? It makes you mentally tougher, set to go, more connected to one another. Right? And sometimes you're connected because you're mad at the big guy.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And they're down 21-0. power outage at the hotel, pizzas as their pregame meal, the whole deal. And they come back and win the game 35-31, the great drive, the 96-yard drive at the end. And Brian Milne scoring the game-winning touchdown. And that's facing adversity in a game. If you demand something of yourself, you can accept being coached hard.
Absolutely.
Because you understand why you're being coached hard.
Yes.
In other words, it is not, oh, he's picking on me.
No.
Okay. Here's the worst thing that can happen to you as an athlete. Being ignored.
Certainly. Absolutely. That means they gave up on you.
That means they gave up on you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question.
If they are pointing out, now, if you keep making the same mistake over and over again,
somebody's going to finally say, okay, sit down. Okay. I don't know what to tell you.
I can't tell you. Or we just flat out can't run that play.
No. Yeah.
But if you're going to make something of yourself, it's okay to be coached hard. Not everything out there is a kumbaya moment.
No.
Hey, we're all going to go in together. No, it's not like that.
No.
And you have to fight. There's competition.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay? It may not go right for you right away. You have to fight through the competition.
Absolutely. Most of the coaches that aren't liked, emphasis on most, aren't liked for a reason because they get the best of their players. The players respect the heck out of their coach and will do anything for that coach. And that has happened more often than not. Give me 3 to 5 players that played under Bob Knight that have a bad thing to say about him. It doesn't happen. And to me, one of the great moments that I learned just by observing was getting to see an Indiana clinic years ago, and Bob Knight did not care. He still cursed, even when there was kids around. I loved it. But the best part was an assistant coming up, and this part was even brought into, I think it was into the Bryant Dennehy special with ESPN, where he's Bob Knight. Mm-hmm. When he calls you a blankety blank, don't listen to him. When he tells you why you are a blankety blank, you listen to him. That was one of the great things I learned, and that's absolutely spot on.
Yeah. Look, I sat next to the bench in the Big Ten tournament when Bob Knight coached. And it was when Guyton was on the team, AJ Guyton.
Yeah.
Did he get mad about a couple things? He got mad about a couple things, but not like
especially
wild.
When you're in the heat of the moment, intense, you're gonna be.
But for example, he brought Guyton over the bench one time. He says, "AJ," he said. Now it looks like he's yelling at AJ Guyton, and he wasn't. You got to tell Nash he's got to go and cut off that back screen. You got to tell him that. He says because. He says, he's fouling the whole play up, and he's not giving you the space to do it. You tell him I told him to cut it off better. Now, it looks like on TV, what does it look like?
It looks like he's screaming at him.
Looks like he's screaming at A.J. Guyton. I was sitting right there. He wasn't screaming at A.J. Guyton. He was making a point to A.J. Guyton, coach to player, okay, relay the message to them down there, what we need to do here. All right? They're both. That's why I always used to laugh when people would, like, on the sideline, they'd see Joe and an assistant coach yelling about something.
Yeah.
Not realizing they were both yelling about the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? What's he doing out there?
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing out there.
Yeah.
He's doing this, that, what? Right? Everybody's like, they're fighting. No, they're not fighting.
No. And I can also assure you, at least 50%.
And why do I know that? Why do I know that? Because I asked.
Sure.
Okay, I
absolutely
asked. So I'm not here talking out of turn. I asked.
No, and this is not a knock to the fans. There's so many great fans, and these sports would not be what they are without them. But there are so many that I can tell you have not been in that moment. As an athlete, it is a competitive level. You're going to be screaming at times. You're going to be frustrated at times. It's part of the game. There's you don't sit there and have to speculate everything that happens. It is part of the game. Bill O'Brien and Tom Brady arguing on the sidelines, that's part of the game.
And it ended
completely,
right there.
And it ended right there. It's part of the game. That's Tom Brady being competitive and wanting to be coached. That's Bill O'Brien wanting to teach that moment. That's sports.
They always show that part. They never show the part of when Bill sat down, then they went over what they're doing.
And it went over, yeah.
They never show
when they calm down afterwards. Because it's you're in the heat of the moment. Absolutely, you're going to be frustrated about something. There's no question. That's sports.
So, accountability, which we're begging to get out of you.
That's right.
Begging. Accountability is so important in life, your job, and accountability is important on a practice field because accountability is going to be needed in a game. And when you sit there and you watch all these press conferences and Dan Hurley talks about accountability, Tom Izzo talks about accountability. Yeah. And part of accountability is you have to check your ego in at the door, which goes back to the John Wooden saying
Absolutely.
all the time. It's amazing what great things can be accomplished when nobody cares who gets the credit.
Who gets credit? Absolutely.
Right? And if we can just drill that out of your head.
That's right. I was lucky enough.
It's the Jason Lord Show.
I was lucky enough to meet John Wooden once.
No,
one of the great people.
I had a wedding to go to. And it was family. And he came here for a clinic, and Dick Harder wanted to introduce me to Coach Wooden that weekend. I said, Dick, I can't. I have to. He goes, I understand it. It's one of those moments.
Yeah, had to be done, but it's one of those.
My presence at the wedding really meant nothing.
It really mattered.
It really meant nothing. But it was always that one thing I was like, God, I had a chance to meet Coach Wooden.
Yeah.
Because Dick interviewed Coach Wooden at his house.
No, I was lucky enough to talk to him for about 2 or 3 minutes, and that was it. But it was unheard of.
So, yeah.
Yep. He actually went over his pyramid with us. So that was absolutely awesome. Yeah, that was a learning experience.
So, well, it was another learning experience with you today. We learned that you used to steal cable. We learned that you use other people's passwords for streaming, and and accountability is just a long word. That's what I learned today. No? Not true?
Not quite.
No?
Not quite.
Was there more we were supposed to have learned?
No.
Oh, my goodness, there's more. Oh, and then John Wooden was so upset with you after 3 minutes he was done with it.
He threw the clipboard. He had enough. But I wasn't the Wizard of Westwood by teaching people like this.
He never got off the bench.
No.
He never did.
Nope.
And according to the players, he never raised his voice.
One of the great books for people that read books. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wrote a book, Wooden Me. That is a great book.
Yep. Yeah.
2 all-time greats explaining a lot of things there.
Let's go to Houston. We'll play in the Astrodome. Kareem has a scratch cornea. And 71-69. Completely healthy UCLA. 2 months later.
Yeah.
101-69.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.